The disappearance of the 3 Mamelodi men remained a mystery for almost 10 years. Elizabeth Maake, Lizzie Sefolo, and Mabel Makupe had to read the story of their death in the newspaper. We have known since the beginning of the year that Mamasela was there when Maake, Makupe and Sefolo were electrocuted to death. Now we know who gave him his orders. Jackson Maake was a student.
When the sun shines, I think about my child. When the sun sets, I think about my child. This thing, it's hurting me.
Paul van Vuuren said that he was an informer for the security police. They became suspicious that he might be a double agent and that he smuggled arms for the ANC in a car that they provided for him. He was the first to be picked up and tortured.
Used the generator. There were 2 wires. One was connected to his foot and one was connected to his hand. Then when you switch the generator on, it shocks the person and his body goes rigid. During the interrogation, it became clear that his contact in Mamelodi was a certain Andrew Makupe.
Andrew Makupe was a member of the ANC.
He was a nice guy. He was like a brother to me, a father. He was everything to me because he had no sister. He's the only child to his mother. So I was like a sister to him. We were a very happy family.
We pulled him off the road, and as far as I can remember, he was driving a blue Colt Galant, although I'm not exactly sure about this. We put Makupe in our minibus, and one of us followed with the Colt Galant. I believe this was Sergeant Mamasela. We left Maake and Makupe at the property about 5 kilometers north of the Pinnesrivier Dam. At dawn, Hector, Mamasela and myself returned to the property. We interrogated Makupe in the same way as we interrogated Maake. That means we also gave him electrical shocks with the generator. I received information from him that he was responsible for the transport of arms and that he received his instructions from Harold Sefolo.
Harold Sefolo was a businessman and owned a general dealer in Witbank.
He was somebody who loves the family very, very, very much. So the disappearance did disturb us a lot, because we knew that if he has just left somewhere, he will come back again very soon. So we've been waiting for him that he will be at home, but only to find that there are weeks, months, and then he doesn't come.
That night, Mamasela, myself and Hector went to Witbank. We used 2 vehicles. Hector and myself waited outside Witbank on the main road, and Mamasela went ahead on his own. After about 2 hours, he returned with Sefolo. We returned to the property to the north of the Pinaars River. We also interrogated Sefolo in a similar manner as the others. Mamasela forced a knife in Sefolo's nose, after which he provided additional information. He also begged for his life. Mamasela and myself untied him. He asked if he could say something. I agreed to it. He asked if he could sing Kosisikilele Africa, and he said that we had better kill him. He also claimed that the ANC would govern later, that apartheid would no longer be able to be maintained, and that democracy would be the end of the Boers. Mamasela had an ANC flag present, which was with us then. He threw this over Maake while Sefolo sang Kosisikilele Africa. We then shocked Makupe to death.
Van Vuuren, Mamasela and Hector then blew up the bodies with a landmine so that it would be impossible to recognize them.
If they can come to me, he must come to my house. Van Vuuren must come to my house and sit down and say, Mrs. Makupe, I've done wrong. Maybe we'll talk, and then miracles will happen.
But perhaps miracles will not happen. Paul van Vuuren tries not to think about what he did in those years.
Ek Brigadier Jack Cronje, former commander of the Northern Transvaal Security Branch, calmly told the Amnesty Committee of yet another calculated and chilling execution in 1986. The victims, 10 young men from Mamelodi who were poisoned and then blown up in a minibus. They were killed because they wanted to go for military training with the ANC in Botswana. There was no question of arresting or detaining them, Cronje said. For the first time, the members of the Amnesty Committee, particularly Judge Hassan Moll, were visibly shocked at the gruesome details placed before them.
June 1986 in Mamelodi, the township a stone's throw away from the seat of apartheid power, Pretoria. The big men who make and break the laws had just declared a state of emergency across the land. 10 days after the state of emergency, 10 young men disappeared from Mamelodi. It is known only that they were comrades. Like most black youth at the time, they were prepared to do battle against the big men with their mighty powers. 10 years later, this week, their parents heard what had happened to their sons. They were killed by military and policemen who did not even know their names. They have become known as the Niet-Verdiend 10. Niet-Verdiend meaning not deserved.
Mamasela infiltrated a group of young activists in Mamelodi. He informed me that they wanted to receive military training abroad. And a meeting was arranged between myself and Colonel Shaunadier of Special Forces, where we discussed this matter. I made this combi available to Mamasela, and he arranged to take these MK soldiers, or intended MK soldiers, across the border at Niet-Verdiend to Botswana for training purposes. I met Mamasela in town and told him to drive the Niet-Verdiend road and then to turn down a particular dirt road close to Niet-Verdiend. But there was a further combi at the scene with 4 of Shaunadier's operatives, whom I do not know. All of them were wearing balaclava caps, and they were awaiting Mamasela at that point. When he stopped, they took the persons out of this vehicle. They were under the influence of alcohol to a considerable extent at that time. As they were taken out of the combi, the members of the military pressed them down to the ground and injected them with something. They were then put back in the combi, and then we drove to an area in Botswana. This combi with the trainee soldiers was pushed down a incline, and then the combi was filled with explosives and blown up. Were they to return as well-trained terrorists, then they could have struck anywhere in the Republic, and I wouldn't have known how to prevent them from doing so.
You know, the danger or prospect of them returning was nil. So that hardly is an issue for debate.
Precisely.
They were being sent to their death.
That's why I'm speechless in response, Mr. Chair.
This was preventative. We had to eliminate them to prevent that they would come back as trained terrorists.
For Mabel Makulani, mother of Abram Makulani, none of the young men deserved their deaths. And for her and the other parents she spoke for, neither do these men deserve forgiveness or amnesty.
I
don't have reconciliation. As they have taken them from my place to the place where they've killed them, I want them to go and fetch them where they've left them, to bring them home so that we will be able to bury them peacefully. And they've killed our children, so they want us to forgive them.
We showed last week that while the evil perpetrated by the security police was slowly being uncovered, there have been no confessions from the Defence Force side. Well, the police are now fingering the Defence Force, because in the mid-1980s, all the clandestine units of the state started working together to eliminate those who opposed the National Party state. On the police side, it was the security police and Vlakplaas. On the military side, it was special forces, military intelligence, the Directorate Covert Collection, and that sinister band with a cynical name, the Civil Cooperation Bureau, the CCB. This is the only image of the shady CCB commander, Joe Verster, ever seen in public. We heard this week that he supplied the bomb that killed Homeland leader Piet Ntuli. And special forces were named as the killers of Fabian and Florence Ribeiro.